Hi, I'm Ryan Hanlon. I'm the VP of Global Sales and Marketing at MDS Global. So with the MVNO community, they're required to be flexible and innovative, but the environment is becoming very competitive. So a lot of the MVNOs are trying to jostle for positions, and therefore they need to go become more differentiated and be more customer focused and specific. And this is where MDS supports them in from a end-to-end BSS or business support management system, where we help them differentiate their propositions, their offerings from a full end-to-end stack. Now, our heritage actually comes from being the largest B2B MVNO in Europe back in the mid-80s. So ultimately, we've got the DNA within the software logic itself. So it helps with whenever we engage with the community, that we're able to know what they're talking about and where they need to go. So I've been to a number of MVNO Nation events, and personally, I feel that the personas that actually attend these events are different to a lot of the others in that they're very purposeful. They've got a tangible, impactful job that they want to try and achieve. So for me, it's quite interesting to not get beyond that, or to get beyond that waffle. But also from a personal perspective, I'm a proudly South African living out in Europe, and ultimately, coming back to home is an important thing for me, if you like. But what do I recognize in the African market is the frequency of change is a lot quicker than within Europe and the Americas. There's the need for differentiation is a part of the DNA of the African community. So from an MDS Global perspective, we'd like to take a lot of those learnings and build that into the portfolio, because that allows us then to go wider, more globally in that particular space. So hence why we're very keen and happy and proud to be part of MVNO Nation Africa. So one of the things was we sponsored and supported a pre-event workshop with our partner DSG, and what that allowed us to do was actually give a lot of the insights and details that we're actually learning globally. But it also gave us that one-to-one communication and that sort of dedicated communication and insights between us and the other aspiring MVNOs in the community. So it was actually a great event, and I think we'd probably look to do something similar going forward. So I think MVNOs, or virtual network operators in general, have such a unique opportunity with the ability to combine communication services or connectivity with a lot of the other sort of vertical segments, if you like. So if I can sort of paint a picture in your mind of, I see these virtual network operators sitting right in the middle. So there's obviously a consumer base where you start to look and address communities. And sorry, I keep taking it back to, I'm a South African, I'm living out of Europe. I would love an MVNO that's specific to my community, the South African community, and how you can address a lot of the communication connectivities, but then sell me biltong, sell me some other aspects, castle logger, those kind of things within my proposition. The MVNOs then also have the ability to tap into IoT and enterprise, and that then brings a whole lot of different types of verticals. So you can then pivot from an agricultural vertical through to a multi-media company, or even fintechs, or even digital brands themselves. So that ability to pivot is something inherently capable of, that MVNOs are capable of. Then other areas such as API exposure, and I think this is one of the key areas, and I did address this in our workshop, pre-event workshop. The networks have dug up the ground, they've laid fiber, they've rolled out 5G standalone networks, and now they're looking to try and make money from it. So therefore, they're exposing their APIs and their network. And I think it's a unique opportunity for MVNOs to actually bring in API developers and utilize it, even from a network as a service type capability. You then start to extend it to private networks. So launching at the Formula One racetrack, you have a defined private network. You then have ice hockey matches, but no one is actually monetizing that. And this is where the flexibility and innovation that the MVNOs have actually can play into this particular space. And then, of course, you get the OTT players that you should be embracing. So an MVNO has an absolute opportunity to sit right in the middle of this ecosystem and be the catalyst for growth. So if I can sort of paint a picture or set the scene for you, a lot of these entrepreneur MVNOs start a journey. So it could be eSIM travel type approach. So as they start that journey, they recognize they could tap into value-added reselling capabilities, so therefore selling the MNOs capabilities. But as they start to go down that journey, they recognize they could be a thin MVNO, so therefore start to own their own brand. And as you go along, they start to recognize, actually, I could tap in ISP or broadband into that overall packaging, and then growing further into a thicker MVNO, whether that's owning your entire OSS, BSS stack, or even going through to owning your own core from an HSS or even packet core perspective. But the ultimate goal going forward would then be looking at how do you take that consumer-driven propositions into the B2B space? And they're starting to look at these kind of things, and how do you maybe potentially go from a eSIM travel package into an eSIM travel B2B type package? And therefore, that's how that journey is quite important. And if I take you back to that ecosystem of the different verticals, I can see the journey lining up in that regard. So, as I mentioned, these entrepreneurs on MVNOs, if they're starting to go down these particular tracks or these business units, often it's quite tactical, and therefore they're trying to get to market quickly. So they run up a particular stack to address every single unit, business unit within that. But by doing that, they start to create a Frankenstein sort of business support system environment. So then strategic intent should rather be around providing a universal communication layer, and ultimately that everything goes through this particular approach. So you could be modular. As your business grows, your stack should grow with you ultimately. Now, that then comes with this single data source, and then ultimately a view of being able to address that particular customer in a single particular view. If I give a use case around an MVNO focused on IoT, so there is this scenario of having a connectivity management platform, and then ultimately you have a revenue management BSS stack, but these are disparate or separate. Now, in terms of a customer journey, it would make sense to have this unified. So unifying your connectivity management as well as your business support revenue management system, that allows the friction to be seamless or not non-existent ultimately. So therefore, if there's a fault on the SIM, how do you know where that sits within the connectivity management platform or where that sits on the device? And then how do you actually do the refunds? Doing this universal commercial layer, this actually allows you to drive the process quicker. So starting from a single data source, from SIM through to network, through to product, through to offer, through to invoice, and then looping it back. So I often like to leave as sort of a tagline for people to go ahead with. And we talk about closed loop automation. I'd like to see closed loop business revenue management. Well, to be honest, I think MVNO Nation themselves actually drive a lot of that behavior because of a lot of the people that they bring on board are those people that have intent. It just is fantastic that it's my home country that kind of drove me to come to this. Last year, I was unfortunately not able to meet it because there was a bit of an overlap. So this time, the timing was fantastic and spot on. But I think it's really to learn a lot more. And as you said, I am patriotic, but the point around that is a lot of the learnings or the things that we've done here in South Africa, as an example, and in Africa, have been replicated in Europe a couple of years later. So I think the progression and the frequency of things that have been done here from a supposed third world country is driving a lot of the first world country scenarios and offers.